Hello and welcome to Sing Apart, Notes for Virtual Choirs. Today I'm going to be sharing some tips and tricks for how to build your own click track for your virtual choir. What is a click track? Basically, a click track is a series of audio cues used to synchronize sound recordings. This could be vocal cues, instrumental accompaniment, a metronome tick, or a combination. For virtual choirs, we have several different voices recording themselves separately. Because we can't hear each other in real time, each singer will listen to the click track while they are recording their individual part to ensure that they're singing in the same key and at the same speed as everyone else. But they do so wearing headphones or earbuds so that their microphone picks up only their voice. So, you want to build a click track for your choir. Here are some things to consider before you get started. First, to sing or not to sing. This may depend on whether there is additional accompaniment in the music. The first two virtual choirs I worked with sang a cappella tunes, so we definitely relied on singers in the click track for vocal cues. The next song I worked on had a comprehensive piano accompaniment, which was easy to follow and provided enough rhythmic and harmonic cues without having recorded voices as well. Speaking of accompaniment, that piano I was mentioning, that was me playing. And I can tell you it took many takes to record something I was happy with. Now, live accompaniment perhaps has the benefit of allowing some more expressive or artistic flair, but another option would be to generate the accompaniment using something called a digital audio workstation, or DAW. There's some really powerful tools out there which may be useful for more complex accompaniments. Digitally generating your click track also may provide more flexibility if you want to adjust things like tempo, key, or instrumentation. It only takes a couple mouse clicks rather than re-recording the whole thing. If you're going to record your click track live, I cannot stress this enough, use a metronome. I learned this the hard way in one of the first virtual choir pieces I worked on as a video editor. The song was a canon, but we were going to have everyone sing in the same line and then just shift the parts left or right during the editing process. The problem was the person who was singing on the click track did not use a metronome, so the parts didn't line up when we shifted them for the canon. Because I didn't realize this until after everyone had already sent me their recordings, it took a huge amount of effort to edit each individual part to fit a steady beat. Now, if you're generating your click track digitally, DAWs have metronomes built into the software. And one benefit is that if you realize the click track is too slow, you can just increase the tempo on the metronome and regenerate the file easily. Let's talk about additional cues we can add to the click track once we have the music sorted out. I didn't learn about sync claps until after I'd already worked on a few different virtual choirs. When I discovered how much easier it makes the editing process, it really blew my mind. Here's how it works. At the beginning of the click track, before the song starts, call out sync clap on 4. Then count to 3 and clap on the 4th beat. Because everyone starts recording at slightly different times, the clapping sound creates a distinctive waveform that makes it incredibly easy to align all the different parts when you're compiling the videos.
Sync clap on 4. 1, 2, 3.
It's also helpful to count the singers in, especially if they're singing in the first bar. If there's an instrumental introduction, this may not be as necessary. It depends on the group. But it should be obvious when they're supposed to come in. If there are any departures from the score or any other important cues that are not written on the sheet music, you may elect to include these in the click track as well. I recently played in a virtual jazz band where we went through the chord progression 7 times, each time with a different instrument on the lead. In this case, it was helpful to hear a voice cue at the end of each verse reminding us who was playing next. Okay, you've decided whether or not to sing on your click track, whether or not to include instrumental accompaniment, whether that accompaniment will be recorded live or generated digitally, and what other cues you're going to include. We're almost there. The last thing to consider is what format your click track will take. Will it be an audio file that can be easily emailed to the choir, or will you also want to include visual cues and perhaps create a video click track? One factor that might influence your decision would be if you want to show the sheet music on the screen as the click track is playing. This might help cut down on rustling sheets of paper making their way into the individual recordings. Or maybe you want the choir to see you conducting them as you use gestures to give cues for dynamics or style. Remember that because these video files are typically larger, you may need to upload them to YouTube or a file sharing service like Google Drive or Dropbox in order to share with the choir. There's so many possibilities, and a click track can be as simple or as complex as you like. Essentially, you need to determine what the best way is for you to communicate your intentions for the piece to the choir. All right, here's how this all worked for a click track I recorded recently for Praise God, from whom all blessings flow. First, I arranged the piece in a music notation software called Dynamo. This had two purposes. One, to generate sheet music for the singers, and two, I was able to export the arrangement as a MIDI file. Second, I imported the MIDI file into my digital audio workstation. I use a DAW called Reaper. When I first played the file, you could really tell it was computer music. It had that clunky piano sound, no expression to speak of. But with a few clicks, I converted that clunky piano into a beautiful orchestral sound of strings, winds, and brass. Third, I recorded the vocal tracks. Creator, word, and spirit. And finally, I added my spoken voice cues and my sync clap before the music started.
1, 2, 3. Pick up to bar 1. 1, 2, 3.
Praise God from whom all blessings flow. When I was happy with the audio of my click track, I incorporated it into a video that included some introductory comments and the sheet music for the hymn. I'll put a link to the final product in the video description below. Building a click track may seem like a daunting task at first, but it doesn't have to be. Just take some time before you get started to plan what you're going to do and how you're going to accomplish it. Remember, we're all in this together, even when we're singing apart.